Hello, I am Liza Holland, and I will be moderator for this forum for the LFUCG City Council District 6. We are with the Nonpartisan League of Women Voters of Lexington, and we are the sponsors for this forum. This recording will be available on our website and also on our YouTube channel following the event, and we'll be sending it out via social media as well. We have two candidates today for the election, Ms. Denise Gray and Mr. Charlie Rowland. Thank you so much for being here. We are following the League of Women Voters policies and procedures for this forum. In order to give candidates a fair chance to be heard, we have randomly drawn via random.org for the order of opening remarks and questions, and a second time for the order of closing remarks. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to introduce themselves, 60 seconds to respond to questions, and the questions have been created by the sponsors and have also been taken from the public. Finally, we will give each candidate 60 seconds for closing remarks, and we will use the second drawing for the order of closing remarks. So with no further ado, we'll begin with opening remarks. Ms. Gray, you're first.
I would like to say thank you for having me here to speak about my campaign and my vision for the 6th District City Council seat. My name is Denise Gray. I was born and raised right here in Lexington, and I am a proud graduate of Bryan Station High School. The focus of my campaign is safety, transparency, accessibility, and building community in the 6th District and in Lexington. I look forward to talking more about my vision for the 6th District, and I'm so excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland.
Yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters of Lexington for hosting this important community conversation today. My name is Charlie Rowland, and I'm running for City Council in Lexington's 6th District. I'm a first-time candidate, never run for office before. And if you would have asked me a year and a half ago whether I'd want to run for office, I would have said no way. I was working in Frankfurt at the time, and working in Frankfurt certainly didn't encourage me to run for office. But it was at that time that my daughter was born, Nellie. She was born March 20th, 2021, and that changed my worldview. And so when I heard about the opportunity to run for the 6th District seat last fall, I talked it over with my wife, talked it over with friends, families, and we decided that I wanted to run to make Lexington the best city possible for my daughter to grow up. And I think I have the experience to do that. So I think I have a strong background in public service, and I look forward to using that experience for the betterment of Lexington.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland, you'll take this question first. What do you see as the single most important issue facing Lexington, and what's your plan to address the issue?
The biggest issue I see facing Lexington is public safety. We obviously have a staffing crisis in our law enforcement agencies, both with the Lexington Police Department, E911. We're down over 100 officers. We need to make sure that we come up with creative and new ways to attract and retain officers, because we're spending so much to recruit and train. We need to make sure once we have people in there that they have the job satisfaction that they need, and that we're giving them quality of life that they need to stay with our law enforcement agencies. Second, I think we need to expand what we view as public safety, and really increase our focus both on treating addiction and mental illness. I think that too often we see those as solely in the silo of healthcare. I think we need to incorporate better access to mental health and addiction treatment and resources when dealing with public safety.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gray.
Well, here's something Charlie and I agree on. Public safety of our citizens is very important to me. And it's, as we see over the past couple of years, the increased crime in Lexington. But it comes to how will we target this? I agree as well that mental illness and substance abuse, it has been an issue. And we know this by looking right here in the 6th District. The 6th District was the house or the home of the 2 youngest homicide victims. Unfortunately, we had a mother that was dealing with mental issues, along with ensuring that she had enough money for rent. So this is something that we need to address. And also public safety. We need to ensure not only our police officers are paid a living wage, but we also have an issue with our firefighters. They too are understaffed. So this is something that we need to consider and always keep in the forefront.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gray, you'll go ahead and take this question first. What makes you the most qualified candidate for Urban County Council for your district at this time?
I am the best candidate for this position because I know the 6th district. This is an area that I grew up in. And I not only grew up in this district, I came back home to serve the community in this district. I went off to study law, but instead of practicing law, I came home and I found my home in Fayette County Public Schools, working with our next generation of leaders. I wanted the next generation of leaders to see someone in their community who grew up in an environment similar to theirs, who grew up with some of the many issues that they grew up with, leading in the community. I'm able to walk, and working as an educator, I'm able to communicate with people of all different types of communities, from those who speak English as their second language to those who worship differently. Lexington is growing, and we need a leader that represents the 6th district who is able to grow with it and who has the vision to speak of the growth and how we can get there in a strategic way.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland.
The reason I think that I'm the best qualified candidate for this city council position is really my background. I've spent most of my career in public service. Most recently, I was in Frankfurt at the Cabinet for Economic Development, where I was able to serve on the team that in 2021 set Kentucky's records, both for capital investment and for new jobs announced. Prior to that, I was an assistant attorney general in the Office of Consumer Protection, where I was able to fight on behalf of Kentucky consumers, small businesses, seniors, people that really were being taken advantage of by predatory companies. And it was during that time at the AG's office where I was able to serve on the litigation team that brought 9 lawsuits against the opioid manufacturers and distributors that filled our streets with pills and fueled the ongoing opioid epidemic that we're still struggling with now. And for that, I served for 6 years as a member of the Kentucky Army National Guard. I was proud to be a combat engineer with the 201st Engineers based out of Ashland, Kentucky.
Thank you so much. And you will take this next question first, which is a good follow-up. A large percentage of the court cases right now in our city involve drugs. How would you help to reduce the problem?
This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Too many times what we see is that people are caught in the trap of addiction, and we treat it as solely as a criminal matter rather than a healthcare crisis. Until we get these people the healthcare that they need in treating these opioid addictions, that we're just going to continue to see them. And it's unfair to the taxpayers who are paying for these judicial costs, paying for this litigation that really doesn't prove any sort of resolution to the problem. And it's unfair to the people that are trapped in addiction because they're not getting the help they need. When I was filing these opioid lawsuits, I was able to see really the effect that these opioids have on the brain, and it changes your ability to make good decisions. So until you get long-term treatment, you're not really going to be able to get out of the trap of addiction. So we need to give healthcare resources to these people, not just treat it as criminal matters.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gray.
In the 6th district, we have had a long issue with addiction and drug abuse in our district. I know Charlie has spoken about opiates, but in the 6th district, the issue has mainly been meth, and it has been crack cocaine. That has been our issue in this district, such as neighbors who are making meth in their home. That has happened here on my street. And how do we tackle this is by ensuring that we have substance abuse that is help that is available. And actually, the city of Lexington does have an agency that is already doing that work. But the issue is making that more readily available, because most people don't know the resources that we do have in the city. And so that is how we should tackle it. Criminal justice system is not the method in order to tackle an emotional and an addiction of any sort.
Tough issues. Ms. Gray, you'll go ahead and take this question first. We've had a flood of questions about housing and affordable housing. This one says, some 30 years ago, Lexington had the highest rate of home ownership in the state, and now it stands at the lowest. What public programs and policies and what private initiatives can best protect and foster home ownership, especially those with modest income?
Well, currently the city has a program, the Affordable Housing Trust or Fund. You know the importance of someone and where they put their money. We see that the city has $2 million. That was what was given to this fund. I thought it was $2 million per year, but oh no, the city has given one $2 million allotment to this fund, and that is to cover over all who need this affordable housing. The affordable housing department was able to get that match through federal or state funding, which became $10 million. That right there is not enough. I'm one of those people who cannot afford housing in Lexington. That is a travesty. And we put a stigma on this affordable housing is that it's Section 8. It's not. These are people who are your teachers, your police, your firefighters who are needing housing, who cannot afford housing in Lexington. So I believe we need to put this on the forefront and really get down to the nitty-gritty and put our money where we say we care about.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland.
It is difficult. When my wife and I purchased our current house in the 6th district, we wouldn't have been able to do it on our incomes. We were both in public service. I was working in Frankfort. My wife is a teacher with Fayette County Public Schools. And so there was no way for us to get over the hump of the daily, the weekly, and the monthly bills that we would have needed to kind of build up that nest egg to really put a down payment home. We only bought a house because I was a veteran and was able to use the VA loan program, which doesn't require a down payment on a home. We need to look for similar programs that we can enact locally to help our public servants, to help our teachers, to help our law enforcement, to help our firefighters, to help LFUCG employees, because in order to have a healthy local community with these public servants in it, they need to live and work in our community. They need to be able to grow their families here and really be a part of the community as a whole.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you one more on housing. Comment on the current regulation of accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, second, complete, and independent dwellings on single family lots. Is it effective, and would you wish to change these regulations? And if so, how?
Sure. Well, Lexington has made a point with the urban service boundary that we want to promote and encourage infill development. Yet we've said that and kept the boundary where it is, but we have not done the necessary zoning, the necessary regulatory overhaul that's needed to really encourage that kind of growth. I think the ability for people to add ADUs at their home is something that we need to encourage. I think that there's already the tools necessary. If people do not want that within their neighborhoods, that's an HOA issue. But I think where they're not within an HOA, we should look at the city level for how do we maybe not encourage ADUs, but how do we give people the flexibility to use their property to promote infill? How do we look to break down regulatory burdens that say only a certain number of units can be based on a square footage of a lot? How can we cut down on parking requirements to encourage that infill development?
Thank you so much. Ms. Gray.
ADUs is a great resource for those, for our senior citizens to live, to continue to live an independent life, but yet living close to their family. It's also a great asset for our college students who, to have what they believe is independent living, but still living with their family and while saving funds. I know that we're in our pilot program of the ADU program. And the last time I spoke with our division of planning, not too many people had applied for this pilot program. So that becomes, how do we, as the city and as city council persons, promote this program? Because most citizens in Lexington do not know of this program. So that is the big issue right now.
Thank you so much. I will give a good follow-up question to that, and Ms. Gray, you'll take this first. Public participation and meaningful public participation is vital to responsive local government. What are some approaches that you would advocate for to make government processes more accessible, equitable, and transparent?
But one thing is, I believe how a candidate such as myself runs her race is indicative of the type of leader that they will be and how accessible and transparent they will be. I am the first and only candidate in the state of Kentucky to use a resource called REPT. REPT allows citizens and voters to quickly ask me a question and receive a video response. I want to ensure that I'm accessible as the candidate and accessible as city councilwoman. Right now, we have an issue where we are having our city council meetings at inopportune times for regular people to attend and be part of the process. I think that we need to look at making meeting hours and more accessible for the working class, because we want all citizens of Lexington to be involved in the process. And right now we haven't had that, which is part of the issue that we have here in Lexington.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland.
I believe we need to meet people where they are. I agree that we should look into when public meetings are held. It shouldn't be up to the people that we're representing to find childcare, to have to take time off work to be civically engaged in the legislative process, or to make sure that their voice is heard. In addition to that, I think that it's the role of a council member to go out into the community. I demonstrated that when in the spring, as we were doing the on the table for the next comprehensive planning project, I held the only public on the table event in the 6th district. And yet when you look at the results of the on the table data that was collected, the 6th district had the lowest turnout citywide, which shows that people don't feel like their voices are being heard in the 6th district. So we need to make sure that not only do we have some flexibility in the times of meetings going on downtown, but that there's plenty of opportunities within the 6th district to meet, to talk together and see what's going on in our district.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland, you'll take this question first. And it comes back to safety. Lexington has experienced a shocking increase in gun violence, including 2 minors shot in 2 days. What is the first step that you would take to stop this trend?
Well, specifically, as we're talking about minors, I think there was 3 shootings just in September with victims that were 16 or younger. At one point in 2021, half of the homicides involved either suspects or people who were actually shot that were under 18. I think it shows that, unfortunately, there were kids who were home during COVID that lost the support systems that they needed. They lost being in a classroom. They lost the after-school sports. They lost the job because maybe it was shut down and was no longer able to do it during COVID. And so I think that, especially as we've seen the spike in this youth gun violence, we really need to focus on our young people. The 6th district is home to 1/3 of Lexington's public high schools. We have both Bryan Station and Frederick Douglass. I think that we need to focus our efforts there, talk to our educators, talk to our school administrators, and see where we can really make the biggest difference in these young people's lives.
Ms. Gray.
I believe, like I just said earlier, we put where we put our money where we most care about. We have taken away resources that we had for our next generation of leaders. Growing up, I'm fortunate because I grew up right here in Lexington, and I recall the types of programming that we had for our youth. We had not only micro city government who partnered alongside with Park and Recreations. We had Park and Recreations that actually had events happening in our public parks. We also had after school programs that was teaching, catching those youth who we knew did not have basically the environment that would properly help. Those are all gone. In the 6th district alone, we do not have any public events for our next generation of leaders. Many of my students live in this district, and they have been caught in the criminal justice system, unfortunately. So I believe that we as a city need to bring back some of those safeguards that we once had. Also, we need to ensure that we have parenting classes for our parents who are struggling, working 2 and 3 jobs in order to make ends meet, who cannot show up to these meetings because they can't. They're working several jobs.
Ms. Gray, you'll go ahead and take this question, which winds up being a little bit of a follow-up, because this is what would you as a council person like to do specifically for Lexington's children?
For me, it's ensuring our budget has funds for our children. We do have youth groups such as Partners for Youth. However, those groups are only targeting certain areas such as Wood Hill, Cardinal Valley, and West End. In the 6th district, we don't have any resources for the youth in our Dixie, Mary Todd area that really do need help. So I believe, like I said several times before, we put our money where we truly believe our priorities are. And we need to put it with our youth and our children.
Thank you so much. Mr. Rowland.
I think my top priority as a council member when it comes to serving our youth, I think is really to take advantage in the 6th district that we do have 1/3 of the public high schools, that we have both Frederick Douglass and Bryan Station, both of which are academy schools. It's not the city council's role to deal with curriculum or to step into the lane of the school board, but where I do think that we could really help is as facilitators with the private sector, as representatives of the public sector, and as people who can introduce what's going on in the nonprofit sector. I think that with the academy schools, we're showing kids what the skills they are needed to enter the workforce. But we need to make sure that that's an ongoing conversation with the employers we have here in Lexington. We need to not only give our young people the skills they need to perform these jobs, we need to give them the relationships they need to show that there's good, high-paying, living wage jobs right here in Lexington, and that we want them to stay in Lexington.
This will be our last question before we move on to closing comments. And Mr. Rowland, you'll take this first. Many citizens in our region lack private transportation and must rely on accessible, reliable, safe, and affordable public transportation. What measures do you support to meet the needs of the growing population in Lexington and extending into Fayette County and adjacent counties who require public transportation for their jobs, their medical care, groceries, and other needs?
Sure. If you look at the statistics on how much of people's income within Fayette County goes to transportation costs, it's staggering. And I think that shows that one, we haven't done a good job of infill. 2, we haven't been doing a good job of looking at the data surrounding our public transportation. And 3, we haven't done a good job of talking to employers to say, they're saying that they're dealing with a hiring crisis. Well, we have people in Lexington that want these good paying jobs. What can we do to help get people there? I live on Old Paris Pike, which is an extension of Limestone, which is an extension of Nicholasville Road. But if I was going to get to the other side of Nicholasville Road, I'd probably have to take 3 stops on LexTran to get there. There is no straight path. There is no easy way. The time that people would have to put to travel to a job just within the 6th district is not it's not forward, and we need to look into that.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gray.
I just want to clear up something that was said earlier. Not only does the 6th district have Bryan Station, Frederick Douglass, we also have Eastside High, Eastside. We also have MLK as well. So we not only have 2, we have 4 of the high schools right here in the 6th district. But regarding transportation, we have an area right here in the 6th district off of Augusta, in the Dixie area, where people do not have reliable transportation. Currently, LexTran runs on very specific hours, which is not conducive to those who are traveling for work. It stops at a certain time, and not necessarily jobs stop at a certain time. And also, in order to get from the 6th district all the way over to Fayette Mall, a person has to take the bus downtown and then catch another bus to get to the other side of town. And there's several different stops in between there, which is not conducive for anyone who wants to get to the other side quickly. And we need someone with the future thought who's able to think about the future and the needs of the real citizens of Lexington when making these decisions.
Thank you so much. This has been a very informative discussion. I've certainly appreciate it from both of you. Now we will choose to move to closing remarks. And Mr. Rowland, you have 60 seconds for closing remarks.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It's exciting to be able to get out and talk to voters. I'm fired up. I'm excited to hopefully get the chance to represent the 6th district. My wife and I were purposeful when we moved here. We wanted to be here. We wanted to build a family here, and we want to raise our daughter here. I'm excited after talking to many of the constituents within the 6th district that they're excited to be here as well. It's a diverse district. It's a growing district. There's a variety of neighborhoods, of businesses, a lot of stuff going on. And so I look forward to staying on the campaign trail, to talking to people, and looking forward to making Lexington a great place to work and live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My apologies for my puppy outside. Ms. Gray.
I would like to say thank you for allowing me to be here to speak about my campaign and my vision for the 6th district. It is important for our next city councilwoman to know the district, to know how many high schools we have in our district, to be able to go to different areas, people who don't look like us, think like us, to meet them where they are. We have people in the 6th district in Mary Todd who I stopped and spoke to, who were amazed that someone cared about them, to stop there and talk about their needs, to cry because someone actually sees them for the first time. And as city councilwoman of the 6th district, I promise you, I will see you and I will meet you where you are. So I humbly ask you for your vote on November 8th for 6th district city council. To learn more about my campaign, you can go to my website, which is denisegray4ky.com. And thank you.
Well, thank you both so very, very much for participating today. It is part of the League's mission to try to be able to inform voters, and you've done a great job today. Those of you watching, if you might be interested in League membership, please do visit our website at LWVLexington.com. Lots of energy going on there. And be sure to vote on November 8th. Make a plan. Make sure that you're able to do it. And you can also look for additional information from candidates on vote411.org. And I thank you so much for joining us.